The moment is here. Khamzat Chimaev is finally fighting for a UFC title. The hype Chechen prospect gets a crack at the middleweight title against Dricus Du Plessis at UFC 319. Obviously, Chimaev is known as a dominant wrestler. He has taken down all of his UFC opponents and he rarely ever sees a second round. First, a lot of us question his level of competition, but after victories against the likes of Kamaru Usman and Robert Whittaker, it is impossible to deny that Chimaev is for real and very dangerous. But what happens when he cannot take his opponent down consistently? That's been a question that has made the rounds for the MMA community for a while now, and that's why we're here to answer. How good is Khamzat Chimaev's striking actually? Chimaev has power that we actually know, as he has gotten 2 big knockouts on the feet against UFC level opposition, flooring Ikram Aliskerov before their UFC careers with an uppercut, and straight up nuking Gerard Meerschaert in his 3rd UFC appearance. For this video, we will be focusing on the one time he engaged in a striking battle for most of a fight, and that was his 2022 fight against former welterweight title contender Gilbert Durinho Burns. Let's begin with the good. There's actually quite a lot to like on Chimaev's striking game. First, he brings attributes to the table. He's agile for his size, he's well coordinated, and has a natural ability to put power into shots. Second, he actually has pretty decent mechanics into his strikes. Khamzat throws with good weight transfer, keeps his feet under him during most of his strikes, and gets good extension or rotation as needed into his shots while staying balanced. This might sound like basic stuff, but you'd be surprised at how many MMA fighters don't clear this bar, especially those who come from a grappling background. Getting into more specifics, one of the best qualities of Chimaev's striking is his ability to throw a solid jab from both stances. He's not controlling the pace of a fight with it like a Georges St. Pierre, but it is a safe strike with good extension and decent pop that he can use to both keep opponents at the end of his range and to set up his other strikes. Chimaev seems to also be a natural when it comes to the use of feints, especially feinting level changes that greatly leverage his ever-present takedown threat. But he also layers shoulder, hip, and hand feints to check what reactions and openings are out there. And on that topic, he also usually throws combinations that make sense, varying sides and targets and throwing well with them. His shot selection is also mostly on point, using his jab, leg kicks, and front snap kicks to attack from range, and reserving his lead hooks, overhands, and uppercuts for combinations or counter situations. Chimaev's footwork is also well schooled. When pressuring, he cuts the cage well without following, and will use pivots to adjust his position relative to his opponents, or even angle out after a combination sometimes. Khamzat is also not scared of strikes, and despite his good mobility, he doesn't resort to backing up when faced with any incoming strike. Instead, he often chooses to brace and try to catch strikes with a high elbow guard. This composure and his good sense of distance have also given him the ability to counter, something he has shown the ability to do with both hands. Now let's move into some criticisms. Despite his good timing, Chimaev has little in the way of rhythm and tempo variation. Chimaev throws basically all strikes hard and fast, which can make his combinations predictable. This all-in nature of his striking has also translated in Khamzat overthrowing his strikes. And while I praise him for his ability to maintain stance, he will square off or shift forwards when throwing a combination against a retreating opponent. And while that can give him extra reach, it can expose him as well. While he can counter after evading a shot at times, Chimaev is also prone to sell out on big same-time counters during entries. The problem with this is that he tends to favor big looping shots, and he can be exposed to straight shots down the middle when doing this, especially with his predictable tempo. Most of these flaws converge into one of the biggest issues with unexperienced strikers, and that's defense. While Khamzat is not a defensive void, and his aggression can mask a lot of his deficiencies, it is his defense where the lack of high-level experience shows for the Chechen. As I already mentioned, Chimaev tends to brace and try to absorb shots in his high forearm guard, with some ability to shoulder roll with his east shoulder. The issue with this is that there's not much depth to it. Chimaev will see an entry and will either A. try to counter with a big single shot which can expose him if unsuccessful, or B. will try to hide behind his lead shoulder and try to cover his rear side with a high forearm. His lack of head movement and tendency to keep his chin high during exchanges mean he's open to strikes, particularly in combination, as rolling to cover in one side will expose the other one, and he starts losing his footing when pushed backwards as well. Another thing is that his style of defense, apart from being highly reactive, is that it's very head-centric, which indicates a potential vulnerability to being attacked to the legs and body, something that Borz exploited a few times. So how good it is then? To be quite honest, for striking being his secondary skill set, I would say it's pretty damn good. Chimaev might not have the deepest striking game, but he has built a style that complements well his natural attributes. It has a decently solid fundamental base, and it's clear that he has put the time in the gym, training technique and sparring to make it work in actual combat situations. Khamzat is not going to be the next Ilia Topuria anytime soon, but anyone who stands in front of him to exchange is better off respecting his skill and the danger he brings to the table. That's it for the video. What do you think about Chimaev's striking? Do you think he will need it at all against Dricus? Let me know in the comments. If you want to suggest a topic for a next video, let me know below as well. To support the creation of this content, you can head over to Patreon to get access to exclusive content as well, or you can buy a piece of merch in my store link down below. Remember to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.